Why Geese with Dr. Mary Honan each Saturday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and repeated at 1 a.m. Wherever you are, we're here.
Dígúib go léir cóide agus tá fáilte ród, and welcome to the first edition of Wild Geese. I'm delighted that this show in a previous incarnation won a National Crail Award for radio, and on that occasion I had my next guest on that show as well, so I just thought it was fortuitous to have him on again with me. And the show is about immigration and emigration and the lives of people who leave Ireland to make countries their home, or people who come to Ireland to make Ireland their home. And in this case, hello Michael Dillon, originally from Kilkishen.
Hi Mary, how are you? Thanks for having me back again.
Very honoured to have you back, Michael, one of my favourite people in Irish dancing.
Oh, nice.
But it's true, you know, say it when you're alive. I hate people at funerals saying he was a lovely fella, and they never said it when he was alive. But Michael, you're living in San Francisco now.
I am indeed. I'm right in the middle. I live in the Mission in San Francisco, which is the original part of the city.
The original part of the city. San Francisco is very big. It's
not actually. It's tiny. It's 7 miles by 7. It's got a population of 750,000, roughly. About half the size of Dublin. So for its reputation and status, really, it's tiny. You know, you can be around it.
That's extraordinarily small, actually.
Isn't it? Yeah. I mean, the Bay Area has a lot of cities, but San Francisco is tiny.
Yeah. But there's lots of groups within San Francisco as well, lots of individual groups. And Absolutely. Do they keep very much to themselves? Do the Irish stay with the Irish and the Hispanics with Hispanics and so on?
You know, the Irish all live over in the Sunset, which is the foggy grey part of town. It's a bit like going to Kilkishen on a cloudy day. That's where all the Irish are. And then I live in the Latino part of town, which is lots of great burritos and food. And
a really exciting part.
It is really, you know. I mean, 10 years ago, it's been gentrified, put it that way. But, you know, it was inner city, really, you know. And then the lady I moved out to teach with, her brother owns the building that I live in. And Harold Norse, one of the beat poets, he lived with Tennessee Williams when he was writing The Glass Menagerie. He actually lived in this apartment. So we're a little bit on the tourist trail.
Oh, wow. So people will actually pass and say, that Tennessee Williams lived there, and now Michael Dillon does.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah. No facts for me. No.
One of the days now there'll be tours going past and saying, you know, the great choreographer.
Oh yeah, right. I wish.
Michael Dillon, and the great landscape designer.
Oh Stephen, my partner.
Stephen. Yeah. But tell us about your life there, Michael.
You know, I was coming here for 8 years doing a workshop, and then I was lucky enough to be asked to move over, and I came over and I took over the studio after maybe 2 years. The lady I was with retired, and so I run the Dillon School of Irish Academy of Irish Dance.
Can you move a little bit closer, Michael, to the microphone?
Absolutely. Can you hear me? So I moved over, set up the Dillon School of Irish Dance, and we're a small school, really. You know, I mean, there's not many Irish here in San Francisco. You know, not recent immigrants anyhow. I mean, there's obviously a big Irish community here, but it wouldn't be New York or Chicago. You know, we're very far away, really. You know, and it's mainly Chinese, I guess. San Francisco is very Chinese. We'd be the New York for the Chinese community. You know, we've Angel Island would have been the equivalent of Ellis Island. So a lot of most of my class would not have Irish family, really. You know, some of my
Irish children at all in it?
No, I mean, they're Italian, they're Chinese, they're Vietnamese, you know, so.
That's lovely.
It's fabulous, you know, it's great. And it gives me a very different perspective and outlook, you know, and then we kind of talk them into coming home to Ireland. And actually, you know, they love it. They love going back to Ireland, and they would happily be in Ireland for the Worlds every year. Regardless of being Irish, they just want to go back to Ireland. They don't want to go to Glasgow. They don't want to go to London. They want to go back to Ireland.
So how does it differ? It's probably a very strange question. How does it differ from Kilkishen in County Clare? Was it a big stretch for you?
You know, I think we thought because, you know, we all watched the Brady Bunch growing up and, you know, the hills of San Francisco, and we thought we knew, and I had been coming for 8 years, so I really did think I knew the city and I knew the culture, and then you get here and realize you know nothing. The answer is always no until you figure out how to ask the question. Everything is very businesslike, you know, you have to follow the rules, but also it's very, there's not, you know, it encourages the arts for sure, you know, and it allows you to be who you want to be. And if you want to take up the cello when you're 70 years of age, they would applaud you for it.
That's amazing.
I'll never forget the day we arrived. Actually, there was a woman, an 84-year-old woman, went out on a windsurf board out in the bay, and she got lost. And they found her 24 hours later. And the husband was on the radio the next day going, "Well, we're hoping she'll be back out on the windsurf board tomorrow." And I thought, if that was Lahinch, she'd be put into a home. There'd be none of this surfboard, but you know. So there's no limit here on age, and there's no, you know, if you can do what you want to do.
But Michael, that brings up a very important question. You know, I think as a society, certainly here in Ireland, we tend to be very conscious of age and very ageist. People in their 65, if you're in the civil service, you have to retire at 65, no matter, you could be a very young 65 going on 40. You could have another 20 years in you, and you have to retire at 65, but you don't get your pension, so you have to draw social security, social welfare until you're 66.
All right.
And I mean, one of my colleagues in the station, his father's in his 80s. He's retired since he was 60. He's drawing the pension 25 years.
Right.
When he could, and he could be still working.
Absolutely, of course he could, you know. And you'll see 80-year-olds flying around on skateboards here and everything's great, you know. It's an adjustment when we came, you know, but Steve found it, I think, strange when he came first.
Yeah, he must have. Well, you see, he had the double whammy. He had come to Ireland from England, just got used to our culture, our way of speaking English. And then he had to go to America and speak another form of English.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, Irish dancing. I mean, it is amazing. Any parent out there that's giving out about wigs, don't be, because it is an amazing community and it's a global village and we have all these amazing connections. So I moved to the other side of the planet. I'm still seeing Chris Ryan from Cork, and I'm still seeing friends from, you know, I still see the same people. I'm still talking to you. I have all these connections around the world. So I really only changed location, but I kept my community and I kept my friends.
Yeah.
And I kept my job. It really just changed hall. Whereas Steve, he really struggled he looked at me with resentment for 5 years, I have to be honest.
Did he?
You know, he did, yeah. Because he was stuck at home and I was at class. He didn't know anybody, you know. I had been coming out for 8 years doing workshops. All the parents knew me, the kids knew me, you know. So I really slotted in very fast, but it took him a while.
And then when you go to a dancing competition, you could be in any place in the world. When you go to a dancing competition on a Sunday or a Saturday, a weekend competition, you probably don't come out of there at all until you're going back to your house or to the hotel. And sometimes if the event is on in a hotel, you're in the hotel for the entire weekend. So you could be in San Francisco, you could be in Florida, you could be in Dublin, you could be in Kilkishen.
Exactly, it makes no difference.
Because you still know the same people.
Yeah, you do, you know, and the musicians are the same and the steps are pretty much the same now all over the world, let's be honest, you know.
Yeah, and the teachers are the same. They you know, they come to the same competitions, major competitions. So there's nothing. I think that's great. That helps people
never look any older. Yeah,
sorry,
they never look any older.
No, I don't think there's any teacher I know that has aged.
Not at all. They always say it's great. You know.
It's a land of Tiernan Oak.
I'm telling you. Well, I guess the kids keep us young or something, you know.
It does, and it's the activity as well. You have to remain somewhat fit to keep up with the dancing, especially the standard of dancing now.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It was always high, relative to the time, to the time. But now it's gone so athletic as well.
Yeah, I mean, it bugs me here. They call it a sport here, and that really bugs me.
That bugs me.
It doesn't
I
bug
thought
you.
I was the only one it bugs.
It's an art form, and I'm saying
an art form.
You just can't,
It's not a sport. It's not a sport. It's not the swiftest to the line. And to not say it's an art form is kind of demeaning art forms, because it's an extraordinary art form. You have to be not just a dancer, but you have to be an artist. You've got to create the story through your dance. You have to tell a story through the dance, just as a writer would tell a story through paper, and an artist would on paint. It's an art form, and the race is not always won by the swiftest, as they say in it.
You don't get that here, really. Not criticizing anybody here. Their kids work so hard; they're amazing, really. But it is a mate now. I'm going, can you just feel the music? Can you just, and they go, what do you mean? Well, what percentage faster do I need to go, or how much higher can I go, or
but that's innate, and that's innate in some people. Do you know? I mean, you look at some dancers. I mean, some of the dancers from all over the world, America, UK, Ireland, they're so good. You can see the youngsters that music is in their soul.
Absolutely.
It's not just in their feet, and you have to feel it at a subliminal level first. You have to actually be able to listen to Tony Tyrrell, the late. I find it so hard to say the late Tony Tyrrell, but he was a great friend of mine. There wasn't a night went by that that's the first time I've described him as the late Tony Tyrrell.
Really?
But we used to talk every single night. Sometimes I'd fall asleep and he'd say, "Is that you snoring?" Because he'd be going on and on and on, describing steps, describing dancers, describing. I saw some dancer dancing the other day, and they were absolutely beautiful, and he'd paint a picture with his words, and I could almost see the child dancing. But he used to always talk about the lack that he saw in some of interpretation of the set dances and the Kilkenny races. There's nothing, he said he always wanted to see the Kilkenny races done like they used to be done before, where you'd see the horse movement, the moving forward, the Bonaparte's retreat, moving forward, retreating, and where the story came to life.
Yeah. But that's gone, I think. You don't really see that.
In some cases, it's still very much there.
Yeah, maybe.
With some exceptional.
I did feel when I went back to judge the Irish Nationals in 2019 that oh my God, I'm home. I'm looking at real Irish dancing again. I did feel that. And that's not to criticize dancing here.
Well, I think I have to say, I think the dancing in the US is extraordinary. And I think the same in the UK. I mean, the standard is just spectacular.
It's just a different style at home.
But the one thing that's really extraordinary here in Munster is our attention to detail when it comes to the beginners, and comes to the basics being
fantastic.
And taken at a slower pace until they actually get the basics right.
And they do in Ulster too, in fairness.
Ulster.
Yeah, they take their time. Whereas here, they want to be doing hornpipes at age 6, and I'm going, will you calm down?
I just love the Ulster style as well. Yeah, I just love the Ulster style. It's so uncluttered.
Isn't it? It's very easy.
It looks easy, but it's simple, made look simple.
Yeah,
and that's, when a dancer has the ability to make a dance look simple.
Yeah, exactly.
That I love. When you can sit back and relax and think, I'm actually, this is something I'm enjoying watching as much as judging. But was it very different? Like, you're part of another community out in San Francisco, and was it very, very different from what life was like for you here in this country as a gay man?
You know, I think really we lived in a beautiful place out near Craigenold Castle. We couldn't see another light. We built our own house. It was absolutely idyllic. Steve loved
It
it.
was,
Steve's
wasn't it?
gardener, you know, and he got cancer, and thank God he's fine. But he was in hospital in isolation for 4 months. And I remember I was sitting at home thinking, eventually one of us is going to be this person on our own, and phoning a dancer. And we have no gay friends and nobody. Like we were in the hospital, and I remember there was an old fella from Connemara kept offering Steve, Cockamilis, Cockamilis. Steve didn't know what he was talking about. And I remember thinking, we didn't have a gay doctor. We didn't have
For
a gay
anyone who doesn't know and listening to this, what Cockamilis is, it's cake.
It's cake.
Apparently they changed it to Quiche de Milish because I was brought up with Corca Millish, and I remember a nun in school saying to me when I wrote Corca Millish down, it's not Corca Millish, it's Quiche de Milish, and my mother went down and corrected her because Mum was fluent in Irish, and she said it's both Corca Millish and Quiche de Milish, sister. She'd marked me down really low because of putting in Corca Millish, and if the truth was known, it was my mother was after doing my essay. At home, so
she probably did know. You know, so we live just near the Castro, which is the big area, you know, and it has an amazing sense of community. I mean, I guess because of AIDS, the San Francisco community had to really mobilize and figure out their healthcare, and we have the best gay healthcare, you know, gay men's healthcare really in the world.
Have you?
Yeah, we do, you know, and we're certainly, I have to say, in Ireland, like England was a different story, but Ireland, Steve and I were always treated with the utmost respect. We never had any trouble at all. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We never had a sly comment or a crossword or a look. We just
didn't. In Kilkishen.
In Kilkishen, no.
Yeah, but you were of Kilkishen. You were born and reared there, so you were one of their own.
I was one of their own, so that did help for sure. But you know, I think other people, you know, maybe we were out about it too. We were just honest. This is us, like their lumpers. You know, we weren't trying to pretend we weren't something. But, and I think it's changed. I mean, Ireland for sure has changed, but we did at that time. I remember feeling very alone as a gay man and thinking, you know, I really need to be part of a community as we age, and that was really, I think, the main reason we moved. To be honest, you know, we just took the adventure. We classed the adventure when it was handed to us, and that was the bonus.
But you went to probably, it would be considered pretty much a gay capital, wouldn't it?
It is really, you know, historic. Yeah. I mean, it's not Berlin or Amsterdam. I mean, I think people think it's the Las Vegas of the gay world. It's really not, you know. It really is about the arts and community, and they're very political and very well educated, and they do a lot of volunteer work, and you know, it really is great for that. You know, it's a city where people really can be who they be. I mean, it's where the women's movement was founded. It's where the hippie movement was, the Summer of Love. That was all here, you know. So it's always been a very forward-thinking city, I think.
And very creative city. Some of the best.
Creative, a lot of money here. It was built on gold, you know, and so very philanthropic community here, and a lot of money is pumped into the arts.
And as we were talking about the other day when we were talking, it was a Mexican. It was a Mexican state, if you like. It was part of Mexico.
It'd be like Northern Ireland saying that the Irish now have to be locked in cages at the border. You know, like this was Mexico, and it was taken off Mexico. And now the Mexicans are told that they can't come to what was their own country. So that's contradiction. It's
just very, very hard. But you're involved now. You'd be involved in the in all of the arts, I presume, in San Francisco or in your region, not just Irish dancing. I'd say you'd be the type that would get involved in everything.
You know, it's hard because I have to work so hard at the school, because you got to pay for studios, and you got to pay for insurance, and you got to pay for tax, and you got to do it all. It really is a business here. So I don't get a chance to do a whole lot more. Maura Clark, and you know Maura.
Maura's phenomenal. Maura was another guest on my show one time with Wild Geese.
She's from London and an amazing dance drama person, and so we were both asked actually by the Irish Cultural Society here to do a summer camp this summer on Irish culture, and unfortunately now it's looking like we may not be able to do it, but we're looking at an online option to see can we at least do it that way. But
yeah,
you know, so, and I do an awful lot of dance dramas. I mean, I bring dance dramas back just to educate the kids in the class, and not all kids, I have a lot of older dancers, but you know, to educate them really on Irish culture and history and I really believe that Irish dancing has to be taught in its cultural context. You can't.
But you know, that's a wonderful segue into my next subject, because it's very hard to get away from Irish dancing with you, because both you and I have been so involved, I suppose, in Irish dancing all our lives since we were children. I don't think there was anything else in my life except Irish dancing. And for the length of time that I wasn't involved in the competitions, I was 14 years, 7 nights a week dancing in Bunratty Castle. And, you know, it was hard coming back, because I think a lot of people thought, who is this one? She's just a blow into dancing, little knowing that I probably did as much, if not more, dancing than most my whole life. But you have gone down, you've produced some of the most, renowned dancers and world standard dancers, but you produced a choreography that I was particularly astounded by, I have to say. And I'm not even necessarily talking about the dancing, or talking about whether it should have won or whether it should not have won. I didn't see the competition that it was against. So I don't know, and I'm not speaking from that point of view, but I'm speaking from the longevity, the importance, the relevance of the piece that you wrote, the gifted way that it was actually choreographed, the inspired music, the inspired concept behind it, and the beautiful way it was interpreted by the dancers. And that was your piece on, I have to say, the city I love of Limerick, where I live, and where we have, well, as all countries and cities have, bad history, things that they regret. We forced the Jewish community out of Limerick, all on the words of a Jesuit priest, Father Cray, who said, you might like to carry on the story about why you chose that piece to write about.
You know, I went to, I'm lucky enough to live around the corner from a dance theatre called ODC, and it's amazing. All these old warehouses were changed into studios, and they give companies the opportunity to develop their work before they go on tour. And so we get to go and see. So I went and I saw this piece on misogyny in Eastern Europe by a company called Body Traffic from Los Angeles. If you ever get to see them, amazing. And they played this Yiddish Andrew sisters, really called the Barry Sisters, and they played
Barry Sisters, yeah.
And they played a piece called, one of their songs, and I was humming it away, and I thought that's very like kind of an Irish tune. And then I thought, wouldn't it be kind of nice to do something to some of the Jewish music? And then I remembered Dedan did a kind of a piece on Jewish reels, and so then I looked up. I kind of thought, oh, and I'm very conscious of immigration, and especially now with President Trump, and I mean it's in the headlines, whether you agree with him or not. It's in the headlines. And I'm an immigrant in Trump's America, and so I don't get to vote. I pay taxes. I employ 3 Americans, but I still don't get to vote. So I didn't get to say anything. And I thought, you know what? I really need to make a statement, or I want to make a statement myself on how immigrants are treated. And so I did 2 pieces in tandem. I did one about the Irish in England, and I did one about immigrants coming to Ireland, and this suited my tune perfectly that I was humming in my head. So I went on the old Google and I found 1904, and I didn't know anything about it actually. And you know, as you say, as Elizabeth said, with the benefit of hindsight, we find we would have done things differently. But at that time, there was a boycott, I guess, which Father Creek, he said they fastened themselves on us like leeches, and they Christ. And so there was a boycott of the Jewish businesses in Limerick. And so they bought their tickets to go to America. They went on their way down to Queenstown at the time, and the people of Cork welcomed them to Cork. And some of those families are in Cork to this day. They never actually boarded that ship.
America. They didn't.
So they're still there today, you know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, before you carry on, I just have to clarify that Skip 2007, this is 2020, 2018 it took, there recently, Limerick was one of the only cities in Ireland, one of the 4 county councils in Ireland to refuse to boycott Israel. And I was pretty proud of that, because I thought, you know, we have a history of boycotting Jewish families. We don't want that in our history again. And I received my civic reception here in Limerick for my work on the Holocaust, on childhood under Nazism. And so I just thought it was going full circle in respects. You had the persecution of the Jewish people, and then you had the celebration of, or if you're not, a celebration of somebody who was actually trying to remember. And that's why I think your piece brings it another step in another direction, because it introduces children and people who may not want to read about it in a book, may not have the patience to read, will never meet a Holocaust survivor in their lives or anyone to do with the Holocaust, but they may be very creative and maybe into the art and into dance, and they can learn about it through people like you, Michael, bringing the story to an art form.
Well, you know, it's so relevant today, really. I mean, I teach in the East Bay in a very affluent suburb. For the most part, they're white, well-off Americans, you know, and yet at the same time, we're hearing on Fox News or wherever about the immigrants. It's all we're hearing about, and the Muslims. And I thought, this is crazy. This is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not so long ago, I used to teach in Brighton, just after the Brighton bomb. And I remember going into work in the bank and all the English people going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, you know, every day for months. And now we're seeing the same thing here unfold here. And so we don't learn as a race, and it goes on.
We never learn.
You know, and I thought, this is my opportunity to at least have this discussion with our senior girls and take a piece to the world that we can be proud of. And Sean O'Brien did an amazing job with the music. And if anybody wants to see it, actually, if you go on to bayareaIrishdance.com, which is our website.
I'll actually put the website up when I'm putting.
You put up a link, and then it's under gallery. And then you know, the music came in, and I had the story, I had the music, I had the dancers, and I started, and I thought, you know what, I need to collaborate on this, because I just wasn't doing it justice, and I knew that. So I called the amazing Richard Griffin.
Isn't he spectacular?
He's just, you know, he's fantastic man, and I have to say,
and he's married to an equally fantastic woman, Maggie.
Wonderful, you know, and so I said to Steve, and so I sent him the music, and to me, Richard Griffin is a god.
He is pretty much.
In the mansion house, him humming away and being really cool back in the day, and
God with grey hair.
You know, yeah. And I sent him the music, and he wrote back, and I said, I'm this little school in the Bay Area, and he wrote back, and he said, I would absolutely love to come, you know, and do it. And so Steve and myself hadn't a straight man in this house for years. So we were going, what are we going to talk to him about? You know, this guy.
And he's very straight.
I was so nervous. Literally did I know that I should have been getting in training to keep up with him, because he kept Steve all night. I had to go to bed. And the kids idolize that man.
He's just amazing.
An absolute genius and a gentleman. And it was my honor to now call him my friend and to have worked on him.
And theirs was a marriage made in heaven, because they're two identical souls.
Just really nice people, you know, just really good people. And so that was great. That was great, you know, and so. So we took that to Greensboro as a World Championship last year.
It was do you know, the middle part of it, for anyone who actually does go into your website to have a look at the piece, the center, all of it was spectacular, but it was the symbiotic relationship that happened between the music, the dance, and the choreography at the center part of the piece of music, where it went into the Yiddish music, and the dancing, and it went from Irish dancing and figure for anyone who doesn't know, the dance that would be traditionally figures, so there'd be circles and squares and rectangular shapes and movements, and in Irish dancing in teams, and it went from that into the Yiddish section, with the Yiddish dance influence in there, and the whole, and then back into the Irish dancing. But to me, it spoke more. It said that, you know, you could look on the outside and say, what have Jewish people, or what has say, Israel, or people of the Jewish ethnicity got in common, say, with people from the Irish, culturally Irish, say, Catholic or Irish Protestant tradition. But when you listen to the music and the way it all melds in, and the similarities that are there, it speaks about how much alike we are. Because, you know, the chieftains played with the Chinese group some years back, and you could see the similarity in music there, and it just speaks to our similarities.
Well, you know, like humankind, we have more similarities than we have differences. And
it's finding a way to show those. It's finding a way to,
you know, and I mean, look at our Irish culture. At what point was it Irish tradition? At what point in history do we pick that? We always mixed with other cultures and influenced each other, and you know, it's fantastic. And it's
we had the Norse, the Vikings. Absolutely. Influence, and we had we also had the Spanish influence with the Spanish Armada that thought it was coming off the coast of England, and actually got their tracking wrong, and they were off the coast of Ireland. Right. It must have been an Irish captain.
And then, of course, your wild geese off to the French court and off to the Spanish royalty and back to Ireland with their culture and all that came from Russia and Poland. And you know, I
should actually say that you reminded me of that the wild geese is a reference to the Irish during Patrick Sarsfield's time in Ireland, and Patrick Sarsfield led a group of soldiers in Limerick particularly, and they refused to sign allegiance to the Crown of England. So they were forced to sail down the Shannon and leave Ireland and never return. So they joined the armies of Spain and France and other armies all over the world, and they were called the wild geese. So that's why this show is called The Wild Geese, about people leaving our shores for all sorts of reasons and joining the forces of Irish dance, in your case, in America.
Yeah, but you know, it's fascinating really being here, and this is it's like, I guess it's like Manhattan. There's this real melting pot, you know, of cultures from one block to the next. And San Francisco actually is a city of villages and communities, and it each has its own climate. I mean, it can be 30 degrees one side of the bridge to the other. It's quite amazing, actually, you know. And so the Irish are over on one side, and I mean, as we talked about earlier, and so it's very easy to step into another culture here and actually find people that are positive and helpful and encouraging, you know.
And you're applying for your green card now. You're there 10 years. It's hard to imagine.
I know, it's hard to imagine it, but yeah, I know. Yeah, the ever moving goalpost that is the green card. So I might be home to you one of the days. You wouldn't know. Who knows?
Oh, Michael, I'll tell you, our loss is very much Donald Trump's gain.
Thank you.
Truly, but. Tell us how, the time you actually left Ireland. You actually went with your 3 dogs at the time, didn't you?
We had 2 dogs. We had 3. We got 3 passports. They were just like our passports. And we arrived. I mean, we had that lovely house and garden and the whole thing.
It was gorgeous.
And we arrived here, and we were in the Tenderloin, which is the rougher part of the inner city, really. And it is. I mean, it's being gentrified slowly, but it's still pretty depressing. And so we ended up in an apartment there. Which was free for a while, so that was grand. But we had 2 jet-lag dogs, 2 fold-up chairs, and a picnic table. And I was, well, I mean, when I was 46, Steve was 51. We were late, you know. We were late immigrants, really, you know. And then everyone's a bit. I mean, the Irish dancing community, I guess, was a bit suspicious, you know. What's he coming over here at that age for, you know? So they were a bit afraid to reach out to.
In a country that's not ageist, you have to say it's the least ageist country in the world.
There's no old people here. Honestly, there's no old people. There just isn't. It doesn't happen. And you know, and I go home and I meet old people, and they go, "We were on the bus together at school," and I'm thinking, "We were not on the bus together." And then I think, "Oh my God, we were." You know?
Do you ever look at people and think, "God, I can't be that old"?
But I think it's a frame of mind, you know.
It is.
And the weather, of course, here. Come on, I mean, you know, the weather here is great. It's a bit like Ireland on a nice day. It's not.
But the dogs must love it.
Well, we've no dog now. They both passed away. We're actually we had a new puppy born in Belfast last week. So if the flights come back, she'll be on her way. Maisie will be on her way over.
Maisie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maisie,
fabulous. And what's Maisie called? I mean, what breed is Maisie?
Well, she's a Chesky Terrier, and which I had never heard of. And so we went back to, my mother got a Schnauzer from up in Bangor, and we went back to the people our wonderful George. We went back to the breeder.
It was gorgeous.
And they said, we don't do Schnauzers anymore. We switched to Chesky Terriers. Would you like one? And so we said we would very much like one. So they kind of look like a Schnauzer with a slightly longer body, and they're apparently they're a little bit calmer. So they're very rare. So they're from the Czech Republic, and they shipped one in, the father from Russia and the mother from Czech.
And you have her named already?
Well, we waited 2 years because she had a phantom pregnancy last time. And so we've been waiting a while. But, so we're a bit excited about that.
But have you seen Edward and Byron? Their dogs.
Yeah, but are they pugs, French bulldogs or something?
No, they're French bulldogs.
Bulldogs, yeah, I have, yeah.
And then Terry and Philip have their
dogs and our babies.
Their sausage dogs. I just love those dogs, and Edward and Byron's. Their dogs are they're the most well-behaved dogs I've ever seen. I was astounded to see a photograph of them sitting for their, as they called it, the Boston Tea Party, in this glorious sitting room. And the 3 dogs were sitting on the beautifully immaculate chairs, and they're just looking at the photographs. My Hugo would probably have the chair eaten.
Really?
And it says a whole lot about me as an owner.
Ah, sure, it's all right.
But you're not the same. I don't think you're a family without a dog.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, it's hard. They are a tie here, you know. But I mean, you can take them everywhere. You can take them absolutely everywhere here.
And will he grow big?
No. Maybe 20 pounds.
Yeah, no, they become like babies to any of us.
If he can't fly with us now, I'm not interested. Really, it's got to be us going. You know.
If he can't fly.
Yeah, because you fly so much here, you know.
Yeah.
Then you got to find so it's just easier if they come with you everywhere, you know.
So where do you see yourself coming to the end of this little segment now? But where do you see yourself in 10 years, Michael?
You know, well, here, I mean, a green card aside, I mean, I do love it here, and I really do. I kind of feel that this is the one place that I felt I belonged. You know, from the day the plane landed, I just thought, you know what, this is me. But that could come to an end tomorrow, and I'm not going to be tragic. It won't be tragic if I do have to go home. But we did buy we sold home, and we bought a place in Palm Springs down in the desert, 2 hours from Los Angeles. So we have a condo down there. So, and that has it has a big gay community, and it's got great health, and the weather is amazing, although it does get to 120 degrees in the summer, which what's that, 46 or something.
It's like North Africa.
Yeah, it is. They say it's like Boston in the winter. You stay inside for the 3 months of the summer, you know. But Leanne Nelson from Birmingham and a few friends came over last year. We sat in a pool for the month of July with a cocktail in our hand. It was grand. You know, we suffered. It was good. So I guess that's our retirement plan, that if we stay in America, that we will move down to Palm Springs.
Well, Michael, I hope you get all of your dreams, and that all of them will come true, because I don't think I know of, I know very few, if any, who would be as nice as you in Irish dancing.
Oh,
you're a great ally to have when your back is against a wall.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Thank you.
You know, and you calmed me down on a few occasions when I was you know, and you're a great ally to have. You're very calm.
Thank you.
And I don't think I've ever seen you in a bad mood.
Oh, yeah, not often. No, it doesn't happen often, actually.
No. And I wish you all the luck in the world, Michael, with everything that you do, with your life, with Steve, with Maisie, and with your career, and with your life in America.
And I just want to say, it meant so much to me that when you showed the piece to the survivors, your friends, and
I should actually have said that.
You know, and the response, and that because when you do these pieces, and I knew going that they weren't maybe competitively going to do great, but I hope they would make a difference. And so to get that feedback for me meant the world and gave me the encouragement to go on and develop these ideas further.
Well, I showed it to Dr. Inga Auerbacher, who's from New York, and she was the recipient of the Ellis Island Medal of Honor for her work worldwide. And she's a scientist, but she's also a composer, and her music has been used by the UN, and she has spoken at the UN and spoken all over the world. And I showed it to Thomas Reichenthal, who's one of the only 2 survivors of the Shoah left in Ireland. I also showed it to Yosheved Artsy, who's the daughter of Auschwitz survivor, and Toba Abramchik from Toronto, and many more. And they've all been astounded that a little Irishman would try to keep the memories of their loved ones alive through the art form of Irish dance.
Fabulous. I'm goosebumps thinking about it. That's fabulous. Thank you.
And some of them are friends of yours now as a result.
Yeah, we'll be seeing them hopefully. Yes.
Yeah. So good day, Shiv Slán, Michael.
And thank you so much, Mary. And keep smiling.
Gaurav Mila Mahagod.
Take care.
Slán lad. Bye. Yes.
Why Geese with Dr. Mary Honan, each Saturday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and repeated at 1 a.m. Wherever you are, we're here.